Welcome everybody. We're just going to wait about a minute or so to let everyone log in. Just a few more minutes or a few more seconds while we let people log in. All right, thank you everyone for joining us today. We are on the second UCI Working Well webinar. This one is Remote Working with Children at Home. I am Erin Eckelman-Ray. I am going to be your facilitator today. I'm a lead investigator and workforce relations consultant in HR. Before I introduce the host, just a couple ground rules. This is a webinar format, which means that we cannot see you, but you can see us. If you would like to ask a question, you can go to the Q&A. There is no chat box. You can just submit the question to the Q&A and we will try to get to all the questions at the end of the presentation. We'll leave the last 10 minutes for questions. Now I'd like to go ahead and get to the main event and introduce our host today. Our first host is Brian O'Day. He's the Executive Director of Marketing and Communications at UCI Health.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for joining us. You may hear a bit of an accent in my voice. I'm originally from Boston. I came out here about a year and a half ago. I love it at UCI Health. As you can tell from my title, I'm responsible for the advertising of all medical center products, offerings, and therapies, as well as internal, external communications. And I was very interested in this particular seminar because I have several people that I work with who find themselves in this exact same situation, and I thought it would be helpful to me to be able to better understand, what they're experiencing working remotely, and would help me to be a better leader for them. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what Ruth has to say.
Thank you, Brian. And to our second host, who like me is a working mother, she is our Chief Campus Counsel, Andrea Eaton.
Good afternoon, everyone. Very pleased to be here. I have been here at UCI for just shy of 3 years. In my role as Chief Campus Counsel, I manage operations for the entire enterprise, including the medical center. We have 5 attorneys total, 2 at the medical center and 3 on campus. And some of us are working at home with our children. I am particularly interested in this session and hearing from our guest speaker and from all of you and your questions, because I am in the thick of it with 2 very young school-aged children, and I do not profess to be doing it well, and I can always use tips. So again, look forward to the presentation today and the opportunity for a dialogue. And with that, I would like to introduce our guest speaker today. Ruth Fidino is Senior Advisor in Education and Development at Bright Horizons Family Solutions. Ruth began her career in education almost 30 years ago as a parent education instructor at Pierce College. At Bright Horizons, Ruth has continued her work with families, crafting and delivering parent workshops, serving as a key team member for Family Matters webinars, and developing a parenting podcast. Ruth is an experienced facilitator who involves the audience in the process of developing practical solutions. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ruth.
Thank you. All right, let me get my slides up here. All right. So thank you so much for asking me to do this. I hope that you will gain a lot of information today. And part of that information, I hope, will be really practical tips that you can put to use right away. I'll share with you my extra credentials for this webinar. I am the mom of 3 adult children who all turned out to be really cool adults. So that's in my favor. I am the grandmother of 6 from the ages of 6 months old to 14 years old. And I have worked remotely from home for about 30 years with kids and dogs and all those things that can happen. So I'm really glad to be here today. I hope to share with you some kind of different perspectives and again, some really concrete ideas to implement right away. And I want to start with the idea that just, you know what, this is hard. This is really hard. There's no playbook for how to do this. We're all kind of in this super parenting Olympics where we're trying to figure out what's the best thing to do and what training did we have in the past that can help us now. And none of us really signed up for this. It just happened to us. We've kind of found ourselves in this unexpected place, not only trying to figure out how to work from home, but now we have the school thing on top of it, and you know, supporting our kids' education. And everybody keeps saying, oh, it's the new normal. But the new normal keeps changing all the time, doesn't it? Have you found out that you just get set with something and then something else happens? Things keep changing all the time. One of the biggest causes of stress is that for most of us, is that there's a mismatch between our expectations and our reality. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. But just as I mentioned it now, I just want you to think about, first of all, giving yourself some grace. Things are in flux, and solutions that work for you this week frankly may not work for you next week because things may have changed. So give yourself some grace, and let's learn to do the best that we possibly can. So regardless of work schedules and school schedules, let's start with the most important things. And you know, there have been a lot of studies done after major disasters like hurricanes and tornadoes and fires and earthquakes. And what they found really helps people to thrive and to come out of these disasters is these 2 things on the slide: relationships and routines. These are the things that, if you can get these right, these are the things that will give you the strength and the peace of mind, the calmness to add calm to your family rather than chaos, which is a really important thing, adding calm to your family rather than chaos. So let's start a little bit with routines. Routines just make us more efficient. They reduce the need to plan over and over and over again. They really are a proactive step that you can plan rather than a reactive step. And they provide some structure to the day that really helps us to be more centered. I mean, think about when you have routines, you just do them kind of automatically. I mean, when was the last time you had to ask yourself in the morning, should I brush my teeth today or not? It's part of your routine. It's part of what you've done. But our routines have changed pretty drastically. And so you have some old routines that you used to do that used to take some time out of your day. And maybe you filled them with other things. You know, that commute to work isn't really probably a necessity anymore. It's, you know, from your kitchen to your desk. Stopping at someone's desk to chat. Maybe you used to do that all the time. Taking your kids to childcare or to things after school, those dance classes, sports classes, all those things. And so, whoops, I just hit the button when I wasn't ready. So those routines have changed now and have freed up some time. So let me give you my first real tip, and that is to spend some more time with your kids, which leads us into this relationship piece. Maybe some of that commute time really could be time that you spend with your kids first thing in the morning. I think that you'll find that you may be already finding that your kids need more kind of comfort and reassurance. And knowing that they're going to have that time on a regular basis really helps. So start your day with kind of togetherness and comfort. When you spend a few minutes even just reading to your kids or snuggling with your little ones in the morning, you kind of fill their cups for the first part of the day, and that's gonna bring you some extra time that you can get work done. So think about, and this is one, if you have a little piece of paper, you might want to write down, when could I spend some more time with my kids? And it doesn't need to be huge amounts of times. It can be pockets here and pockets there. But spending that time with your kids, really, really important. So we talked a little bit about having realistic expectations. So let's talk a little bit about your expectations. If you're a stick figure kind of artist, this pandemic does not make you into a fine artist. You will still be a stick figure artist. So if your expectations are too lofty for you, you're going to have a really, really difficult time. So we need to be real with ourselves. So there are some definite things that we can do to make this happen. And one is to recognize that there is no blueprint for success. There is no one right way to do this. And it's really important to aim for progress rather than perfection. If there's only one thing you take from our time together today, please let it be this one. Aim for progress rather than perfection. So you know how when you look on social media sometimes, and you see that the family next door has this beautiful work area all set up for their kids, and their kids are totally involved in what's going on, and oh my gosh, it looks so perfect. And you look over at their kid and they're slouched back in their bed, kind of with a screen in front of them, looking at the class, and sometimes, you know, just twirling their hair or looking around. You know what? Aim for progress, not perfection. Keep with your expectations. Another thing that can really help is to be able to and be really open to accepting new routines and schedules and expectations. That's key. Routines are going to change, schedules are going to change, expectations probably need to change along with them. And the last thing that can really help you is to know that you have what it takes. You can't change everything all at once, but you do have what it takes in order to be able to be successful at this. All right. So this is sort of the give yourself some grace time and aim for progress rather than perfection. All right. So let's talk about some really practical tips. Creating a schedule is a great idea. And this is what you're seeing on the screen here is just a really simple schedule. You can do it any way you want. But having this schedule, having this routine is a really great idea. Remember, we said routines were a help. So I think that one of the best parts about this schedule is it's pretty loose, but still a schedule. And this is my favorite part of it right here. This says discuss and write down a plan for the day. So this portion of the schedule gives you the opportunity to sit with your kids and say, okay, today I have a webinar at noon and I really can't be interrupted. So let's figure out what y'all are going to do during this time. or I have a really big project that I need to work on today, and I'm going to work on it for an hour, and then we're going to hang out and for 15 minutes, and then I'm going to go back in kind of seclusion and work on it again. So that's kind of how my schedule is going to work today. Tell me what's on your schedule. That sharing your schedule at the beginning of the day to make any little adjustments that you have to make is a really, really valuable time. The day is still going to contain these major components, like we're all going to wake up, we're going to have breakfast, we're going to have lunch, we're going to have dinner, you're going to do some schoolwork maybe, you know, whatever is going to happen. After dinner, we're going to go for a walk like we always do, whatever those kind of solid pieces are. But in between there, some flexibility, day by day flexibility. All right, that's tip number one. All right, here's another one. Really think about your schedule and try to create a schedule that meets your work requirements, that gives you some focused work time and some really focused family time. Remember, we talked about how important relationships were. And so having these times when you really focus on family and thinking about, what does it look like when I focus on my family? Does it look like me with a cell phone in my hand, looking at that, answering texts while I'm talking to my child and going, I know it's a hard day, I know. It probably shouldn't look like that. It probably should be really, really focused family time. Again, you are kind of, as an adult, you're kind of the pitcher that fills everybody else's cup. And when you have this focused work time, focused family time, focused work time, and they don't need to be equal parts, but when you include that focused family time, when you really, really hone in on them, it really helps. And you know what? You probably do this quite naturally when you're at work. You stop by somebody's desk and chat with them on your way to a meeting, or you go to a meeting on purpose early to visit with a friend that you know is going to be there. And you know what? You get benefits out of it at work too. Maybe just clearing your mind. Maybe somebody offers to help you out. Maybe you get some brilliant new idea in your conversation with that other person. So the same kind of thing can happen at home when you take that little moment to just hang with your family. So plan to have that both focused work time and focused family time, and try to make it match up with your kids' schedules. And as your kids get older, they can help plan and say, you know, I'm taking this one class I really have no idea about. If you could just help get me started on my homework for that class right after that class, that would be a real help to me. Okay, let's do that. Or you know, I mean, there are lots and lots of ways that it can work out. So you want to use different parts of your day too. Maybe early morning is a really good time. And you also might want to try just being mobile in your own house. Maybe you work from the playroom for a little while, or wherever your kids are. And my big suggestion, if you have little kids that are still napping, heaven forbid, use that nap time. Don't ever waste that nap time. And so using it maybe the first 5 minutes, maybe, you know, just some deep breathing or some quick yoga or something, and then really hone in on that work. But make sure you use that nap time. All right. Think about your schedule and think about, you know, which are you? I am totally a night owl. I can get a lot done after everybody else goes to bed at night at my house. But maybe you're on the opposite end. Does it help you to get up really early and have that cup of coffee by yourself, get yourself organized, look at your schedule for the day so you're ready for that meeting with your kids that says, okay, here's how our schedule's gonna flex a little bit. You may find that rearranging your day really does boost your productivity, and that can be a really good thing. All right, so schedules work for us, but they work for kids also. So here are some tips from educators, and educators are magical at getting things done with a lot of chaos going on. And one of the things they do, especially for kids that are not old enough to read yet, is do these pictorial kind of schedules. So one of my favorite, if you have little kids, is the one right in the middle on the bottom. That's a way for kids to be able to say, okay, I'm doing this, I've already done these things, and this is what's coming next. I already got up and got my clothes on. Okay, put that in the done. Next thing is brush my teeth. Okay, got that done. Move it over. You know what this does for kids? It gives them this sense of, you know how when your kids are even like 2, the first words a lot of toddlers say is no, and then right after that they say I do it, because they really want this independence. And so this gives them that independence to be able to move these things and be able to read the pictures and be able to do these things on their own. Gives them this great sense of independence, which is something you really want to build in your kids. It does another really valuable thing for you as a parent. It keeps you from having to nag. You can congratulate them for doing the next thing and encourage them to do the next thing, but it really keeps you from having to nag so much. And once you start using these kind of visual schedules, boy, will you be using them a lot. You can use them for things like, how do you brush your teeth? How do you make a sandwich? You know, you can take pictures of your kids making sandwiches while you walk them through it, and then put those pictures where they can get to them. Visual routines really help kids feel competent and successful. And the one over on the far right-hand side is another one I like, and this, again, it's from educators, so you're not going to have a carpool sign in at home, but you might really like to have those little clips over there on the side. So when you have that morning kind of discussion with your family, you can say, okay, this part is moving down here a little bit. We're still going to do it. We're going to take the walk with the dog and the whole family right before dinner instead of our after dinner thing, because we have something going on after dinner tonight. Wouldn't that be nice if you had something going on after dinner tonight? All right, so think about your schedule, think about their schedule, and how they really blend together. And the thing that can really help with these, how they blend together, is to really communicate, to really make a plan for communication. So if you are, let's say, in a meeting or delivering a webinar, as I am right now, you can see the door behind me there is shut. That means don't come in. And even though I don't have kids at home, I do have a husband at home, and so he knows when that door's, now watch, he'll walk right in on cue, but he knows that that's, you know, I'm busy, I'm doing my thing. So whatever signals work for you. Maybe it's a note on the door like this one here, if you have readers at home, to help them think through solutions. What could they do for times when you really don't want to be interrupted unless there's an emergency? And while we're talking about emergencies, one of the things you want to communicate with your family about is, what's really an emergency? Is it that the dog got out? Yes, that may be an emergency. Is it that Johnny won't eat his lunch? Probably not an emergency. Somebody bleeding? Yes, please come get me. So think about what are the things that are an emergency, and with your family, help define those things. And then you want to have some plans for your kids so that they can still communicate with you. So do you see this picture on the bottom right here with a little hand under the door? They're asking for the password to the classroom website, and they don't know it. This is really something they need. So thinking in advance, what can I do? How can I help my child have those things at their fingertips rather than counting on me to have them on my fingertips. All right. All right. So again, define what an emergency is, and it's going to be different for absolutely every family. All right. So here's another tip now. Do you have a call where you're working on a project and you really need to get this project done, and you just don't want to be interrupted? You just need this focused work time. And so maybe your go-to solution is, okay, set everybody up with their own little screen and they'll all be quiet. They'll all be absolutely fine. And you know what? They probably will. They probably will be quiet if you give them screen time. But it also can turn into a real crutch. But it also can be a really helpful tool. So thinking about, if you're going to give them screen time, is that screen time, are they active during that screen time? Are they actively doing something? Or are they just watching, just soaking in things? The more active they are while they're on screens, the more value it has. So maybe you say, okay, you have the screen, that's fine, take this iPad or get your own iPad, whatever it is, and take pictures of 5 things in the house. And now use your little story making app to make a story using those 5 pictures as the illustrations. And we'll send it to Grandma when we're done. This Grandma would love to have the story. It would be great. That's an active way to be using those screens. But you could also try some other things while you are working on this project. And one of them is just having creative materials. And one of the most creative materials you can have is an empty box. Any size box, especially if your kid can fit into it. But in any box or set of boxes will springboard lots and lots of creativity. Art materials. Again, really creative materials. And maybe you have something all set up for them with markers and little trays to work on. You know, maybe you've got it set up so well, you're going to post it on Facebook and ruin everybody else's expectations. But maybe you just take some crayons, put them in the box, and put the kid in the box with them. Oh my lands, your child will be busy for eons of time making designs inside of that box. Building materials, Legos, blocks, magnetiles, a deck of cards if your kids are older and they have to build some structure out of the deck of cards. Those kinds of things can really be a help. Another thing that you can do is special activities, kind of in special containers. You know, you get this one, this bag of stuff is what you get while I am going to work on this project or while I'm on this call. And you give it to them just before the call starts. So starting with very, very young children, the box is going to be a help again, but just a colander with big holes in it and pipe cleaners. Your toddler will spend eons of times trying to fit those things through there and make all kinds of things, putting it on their head, making a fancy hat. They'll do all kinds of things. Just some craft sticks and clothespins could be another, just a container with those things in it. A sticker book. If your kids are older, an envelope. How about just getting a mailing envelope? And inside the mailing envelope, maybe you have 1 pipe cleaner, 3 paper clips, a couple of mailing labels, and 2 straws. And on the outside of the envelope, you write something like, build the tallest freestanding structure you can with what's inside this envelope. They're going to love it. They're going to absolutely love it. All right. So the last one is prop boxes. And this is another thing that educators really do. And prop boxes are just boxes of things that spur imagination. So you might want to have like a box full of indoor or outdoor fort building materials. So if it's indoor fort building materials, maybe it's you know, sheets, blankets, a couple of pillows, some clothespins, maybe some string, maybe a thing that gives them permission to take the cushions off the couch, whatever it is, but they're going to build a fort. And one of the real advantages of letting your kids build a fort is then they will spend more time inside the fort. The fort is kind of a magical place for kids, and you'll find that they spend time in there reading or napping, doing all kinds of things. A fort box is a good one. Dress up clothes is a fun one. Combine the dress up clothes with the iPad that has the camera on it, and let them get all dressed up, take pictures, and give you a slideshow of their fashion discoveries after your call or your project is over. Or maybe it's just a box that has things in it that will let them play office or restaurant or store, something like that. Those things that are, and remember, these are things that you bring out right before a call. So if they haven't been playing grocery store, maybe it's just some canned goods that you've taken out of your pantry. And you know what? The kids can help you put these things together and put them in a box or in a container, and they will ask for them. You can say, look, I have to be on a call. Oh, can we have that store box now? Now you've bought yourself some time. And your kids are busy and productive. So let them help build those things as well. All right. I want to encourage you to go to this Bright Horizons website. It's called Bright Horizons World at Home. And I think someone is putting the link in the Q&A someplace for you to see. You can also find it really easy just by searching for Bright Horizons World at Home. But what you will find on this website is a lot more ideas of things that you can do with your kids, things that your kids can do on their own. They're divided by age group up through and including school age. And my favorite thing about the website is that it gets updated really regularly. So if you've been to it once, perfect. Go again. It's got new information on it. The information you saw before plus new information. So I hope that you've gotten some ideas, and I hope that you're going to aim for progress rather than perfection. And I'm happy to take questions if there are questions.
Ruth, it's Brian. Very good. I had a question, and I'm not sure where it would fit in or what age would be appropriate for, but I'm wondering about, with kids spending so much time at home that they might be slower in learning how to become more independent. And I wondered about assigning jobs to kids. Do the kids get to set the schedule for the day, or do they have other things, that, along with, some of the tips you gave about showing progress and accomplishment. Is there a benefit to giving kids something to do separate from school, but something that they would be held responsible for?
Thank you for that question, Brian. It's a really good one. And yes, there's so much benefit from kids having jobs at home, things that they are responsible for. And this time when we are all together as families, so much more now than any other time, this is a perfect time to be teaching that responsibility and being able to accomplish tasks. So yeah, maybe your child is old enough to take your dog for a walk. Heck, maybe they're old enough to take your neighbor's dog for a walk. Maybe they're old enough to really learn how to make their own lunch or get their own snacks. Those are things that they could be doing. Making their own bed, planning menus. Maybe older kids in your household can plan activities for younger kids in your household. And younger kids, especially when we use those kind of visual routines that I was talking about, where it's shows them how to brush their teeth or shows them how to make their bed, they are learning those tasks that will last them a lifetime. And they're also just learning how to follow directions and steps and processes, which is something that as adults we use all the time. And during this time when kids are doing remote school, I think we worry a lot that our kids are going to be behind. But when you do things like giving your kids these tasks to do, these responsibilities, you are really helping them to learn these future skills that we all need. Having your kids work together on a project, really learning that collaboration piece. Wow, don't we all wish that every employee that we ever hired was just the world's best collaborator and could get things done with a group? And some people have that skill and some don't, but this is a time when you can really work on that. Even if you only have one child at home, they can collaborate with you. They can collaborate with a friend online. They could work on planning a menu for 2 families online. So yeah, I think it is good to give your kids chores and jobs.
Ruth, a question came in, something that I'm curious about as well, and that is resources, particularly for distance learning, right? So do you have any suggestions in that regard? I have a kindergartner and a 3rd grader, and trying to keep them focused has been quite challenging.
Have you found anything to be successful, Andrea? What have you tried that's given you a glimmer of hope?
I think the change in the instructional modality for the fall has been helpful. It's been more interaction with the teachers on the screen as opposed to during the spring, which they're pretty much left to their own devices, literally. So that's been helpful. And honestly, bribes.
Okay, couple things to think about. First of all, your attitude, what you bring to the table, really influences how your kids are going to react to distance learning. And I know that most people have kind of a sour taste in their mouth from what happened last spring, when teachers were just kind of thrown into this. We were just thrown into it. The kids were thrown into it. Everybody had to kind of fend for themselves. I'm really glad to hear you say, Andrea, that the teachers are doing a better job of it. Things are more interactive. There's a lot more going on. A couple of things I think you can do, and remember to aim for progress rather than perfection always. But just setting up your kids' space and letting them help with it. Even a kindergartner and a 3rd grader can help create that space. Still getting those school supplies, so that they have them, and they have them right there, and they have their own. The kindergartner and the 3rd grader are going to have different supplies that, they each need crayons, they each need whatever they need. So having those supplies ready and handy, and having a place that feels like it's theirs, but it also feels a bit like school. Like a work surface is a good idea. And so maybe you have a lovely desk where they can, have it all set up, but maybe what you have is just the kitchen or dining room table. So with one of those science fair kind of boards, give them a little, like a cubby almost, a little work carrel, study carrel to kind of be in, where they can keep track of things they really enjoy or would be helpful to them. A comfortable chair, maybe different kind of seating arrangements, but just a place that feels like it's theirs. And your kids can be across from each other at this table if you don't have lots of space. And those little science fair cardboard things really help with that. And maybe just color, my side's blue, your side's red, just so it feels like your own space. And then check in on them. Maybe while they're in the class, maybe not, maybe while they're working on an assignment, maybe just when you have time. And stay in communication with the teachers. I think that's another thing that schools have done much differently this time, is have set up more optimum ways for you to be in touch with a teacher and figure out what is there anything else your child needs. would be helpful to them.
I have a question that was sent in. What do you recommend for older kids, 11 plus, who just want to hang out with their friends online playing video games? This is presenting a challenge because obviously they're missing their friends.
Yeah. So, that's one of the jobs of 11-year-olds and up, even a little bit younger than 11-year-olds. Their job is to build independence and relationships on their own. That is their job, to do those things. And so I would encourage them to have that time with their friends, even though it may well just be virtually. But also learning the difference between, okay, there's relationship time and there's work time. If you think about, and the last question that you and I were talking about, Brian, that, those skills that we want people to have when they come to us as employees, we love a gregarious employee, but if that's all they bring to the table, that's not enough to be an employee. So help your children now learn the difference between schoolwork and relationship building, and really help your kids learn to build those relationships, and ask them, what are other and ask other families, what are you guys doing? Are there projects that your kids, your tweens, can work on together virtually, where they're actually doing something besides just playing a game? Not that there's anything wrong with playing a game, but maybe they're working on building some creation. Maybe you give both kids those envelopes with the paper clips and the mailing labels, and have them individually create something and then talk about it. And maybe it is just separate times for separate things, so that your kids get in that habit of, okay, look, we talked about our own focused time, focused work time, relationship time, showing them that example, and that's what you're doing, and that's what we do. And also letting them know that you really support them having these relationships, because that's really key. That is their job, to build those relationships.
Ruth, you spoke a little bit, I believe, about how you modified your work schedule and did do a lot of work in the evening. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that experience.
Yeah, I am a serious night owl, so I could work, until 2 or 3 in the morning. So, and I get really good quality work done then. So knowing what you are, in terms of, do you get things done better early in the morning? Do you get things done better right before you are going to eat, or right after you eat? When is your, and maybe it's just observing yourself, when is your prime productivity time? And then really focusing on protecting that time. Now, when I first started working from home, and I was finding that I really was working till 2 or 3 in the morning, it became an issue for me. I had to rearrange my schedule again, because it's real hard to, be chipper at 8 when you've worked until 3. So always having to refine that schedule. But what I've kind of landed on now, and for the last, 10, 15 years, is if I need to do creative thinking, and I have to do that a lot in my job, I write down all kinds of notes during the day, but my creative thinking happens at night while I'm doing something else, while I'm sewing, while I'm drawing, while I'm doing something else, cleaning the kitchen, whatever it is. That's when my really creative thinking happens, in the evening. So I think it's getting to know yourself, and not saving all of the things for that time, because you still have to be productive during the day. You still have to be on calls. You still have to contribute to the email chase. You still have to do all of those things. So knowing your own prime time and knowing to use it really well. It's kind of like using your kids' nap time, you know? It's like, okay, for nap time today, here's what I'm gonna do. And so that you have that kind of ready to go.
We have someone who asked a question about play dates, particularly with young children and scheduling play dates perhaps at a local park and limiting it to another classmate. Do you have an opinion on that or any suggestions?
Are we talking about little kid, like?
Fourth grader and a kindergartner.
Okay. Yeah, especially your fourth grader they understand, a fourth grader can understand social distancing. Both should probably learn to wear masks, and this is a good time, especially if your schools are starting to think about hybrid schools, or maybe, I don't know, maybe your schools are already in session, but wearing a mask when out in public, whether you're inside or out, so that's a good idea. And yeah, I think that kids can play together. Two fourth graders can totally be, two kindergartners can totally stay 6 feet apart, especially if they both brought their, if they made a plan in advance and said, today we're bringing our Barbies and they're going to go camping. Bring your stuff for a Barbie camping adventure. And they can play 6 feet apart. They're both playing with their own Barbies. They're having the same conversation they would have at home, or if they were playing together in a bedroom with their dolls. So that same kind of thing can happen outdoors. It's lovely that you all have this long time of being able to play outside. So yeah, I think use that to your advantage.
Yeah, we had hesitated to do play dates just one-on-one, but we found that more organized sports are opening up opportunities. So our oldest is actually doing baseball, and it's not real baseball. They aren't playing games, but they're fully masked up and they're doing drills, exercising. It really is just getting the physical activity, but also having the socialization as well. And so we're a couple of weeks into it, and we've been pleased with that so far.
I think that's great. And, with getting together with just one other family, I think you have to have that conversation about, what's your stance on masks, and does your family really wear them when they go out? And, it's kind of like, how can do we agree on these things before you decide who you want to really hang out with? Every family's, again, got their own little nuance.
I've got a good one for you, Ruth.
Oh, good. Thanks, Brian.
Do you have any suggestions for children who are experiencing Zoom fatigue? Because the fall school schedule is so Zoom heavy. I'm going to write down this answer.
Brian, what do you think is the solution? Any guesses?
I don't. It's like a lot of adults, Zoom has just become part of life.
Yeah. And I think as adults, we can put up with it a little bit longer than kids can, but it is really, really hard for kids. So yeah, my suggestion would be Zoom breaks that are serious Zoom breaks that involve some physical activity, or maybe some just kind of breathing routines, yoga. I'm all into people into mindfulness, which is just intentionally paying attention to what's going on inside your body. Try to calm yourself back down again, kind of get ready for it. Shaking your sillies out, doing whatever has to be done. But yeah, just taking a total break from Zoom. My family has my family kind of lives all over the place. So my family has a family Zoom call on Thursday nights. And when school was not in session, my grandchildren were often on the Zoom call, and they'd last for 10 or 15 minutes. Now the grandkids get on and they go, "Hi, see you later." That's it. They are just totally zoomed out. So it is to be expected. And I also think that we can build up to being attentive for longer periods of time on Zoom. Part of the job is your child's responsibility and your responsibility. And part of it is the teacher's responsibility as well. As Andrea was saying, teachers are doing more interactive things. But yeah, getting outside, running, making lots of noise. Because one of the things about Zoom is you have to be quiet for so doggone long. And so just being able to, chill from that and just go outside and make crazy noise and run. Be a kid.
Thank you, Ruth. And we are trying to be respectful of Zoom fatigue. So for that reason, we have decided to make all of our presentations end at 12:50. I wanted to share with the group the upcoming remote work webinars that we will be having. And if you are interested, we have mental resiliency next week. Following week is remote work while caring for older generations. And we have adjusting to adult children back at home, remote work while living alone, and managing remote workers. So thank you everyone for participating. It was very helpful for me. I wrote down quite a few things and for me to do. And
Great.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you.